Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Chamaco09 or 09 if you want to be to do it in Spanish. And I'm here with Vodable Dex, with Shadow and Alternix. And we are basically the crew that is casting the Grand Series in Spanish, English, and Portuguese. So everyone, welcome. We are here to discuss a little bit of week 2 of the Grand Series. I hope you guys are doing well. Um, Last time we just did this type of conversation. It was more like a conversation. I mean, we were just going out with whatever happened. We went through our minds, and I think it was a pretty interesting thing to do because a lot of you had never seen South American Rocket League before, and that was maybe not the first time you saw it, but one of the few times where you saw so many high level teams from the region going at each other and just showing us what they can do against each other. So this is week 2. Maybe your impressions have changed, maybe your fandom has increased. I don't know what's going on, but I want to hear from you guys. So the first thing I said, what was your biggest takeaway from week 1, and I'm going to start with that, the same thing. So I want to start with Votable. What's your biggest takeaway, if any, from week 2, I'm sorry.
I feel that Math is insane still and is able to carry an entire team into the World Championships. That's my takeaway.
It was.
Can't
So
disagree.
in case you guys don't know what happened, Rodium lost the match. They lost the match. That was an impressive thing. But it after that, it was like someone had a needle and they were just poking at Math, and he was calm from the beginning until he said no more. I'm gonna do whatever I want and start hitting crazy angles from everywhere, and that gave Erodium the boost they needed to win the series in the end. Shadow, what do you think was your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I paraphrase Vodable, but to try and say other things is that is that Arcade actually really surprised me. Like even though they lost, yeah, I do think they're definitely potential for that top four. Lotus surprised me in the negative, and I really hope they bounce back. And yeah, G Factor, I feel bad for them, but I mean, they're really struggling, so we'll see how they do. Those are my takeaways.
That's yeah. So going back to that, Orchid had a really good showing on their first match. Um, they had 2 matches, right? I don't want to. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
they
they
had
played
one
against G
against G
Factor.
Factor, and it now you mentioned G Factor. It's like were
It's
they really
tough.
having a struggle against Erodium because it was number 8 seed against number 1, or is it gonna be like that every single week? Like we know they can play together, they can do some passing plays, but they don't have any defense. They allow you to score as much as you want.
Yeah, they just not fast. They're not as mechanically good as the other teams from what I've seen so far. So they really struggle with getting contesting the ball
Mm-hmm.
and just stopping plays from the enemy team happening. So they just concede a lot of goals with that. It's not like they're so bad that they can't even score because they definitely can't. But it's very hard when their defense is pretty much non-existent. And I mean, in fairness, it's still pretty much they've only played against tough opponents. I would say previously that Arcade maybe would be the lowest team by far, but after that performance against Erodium, I'm not so sure anymore, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still very possible for them to snipe maybe a match versus I don't know, let's say Fantasy Death or even Cryptic the way they played this week. So, and with the top six for playoffs, it's very possible to maybe still go to playoffs, and who knows when it goes that far. So, but yeah, they're struggling right now,
Okay.
definitely.
So Alter and Dex, you know the region pretty well. What was your biggest takeaway, if any, from this week?
I mean, math is insane. First of all, like you have to
Nutty.
start everything like it's like Eroding doesn't need to be carried. Walt and Kaio are really good players in their own right, but Matt is going off, dude. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's eating for breakfast, but he's just going
He's eating his
in with
opponents for breakfast.
Ooh.
I don't know. I really don't know how he does it. But every time he's going for a double tap, you know he's gonna hit it. You know, you already know he's gonna hit it on target, and you have to save it. And it's freaking impossible to save. I don't know how he does it. It's insane.
Yeah, that was just insane, honestly, from him this week. And, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's like the number one in goals now by a long shot, right? So
Yep.
it's like,
Yeah, by a long shot, like he has almost 1.2 goals like over the second place. 1.2 goals is just that's insane. I don't
is.
know. I don't know how else to say it.
Now, I mean, Dex, any thoughts before I move on?
Yeah, well, I have some thoughts on what we saw today. First is that basically walls are just an extension of Matt's limbs, so there's nothing to argue there. No, but we really could see that all the teams really improved. That's something that we cannot deny. There were no boring matches today, so that was pretty impressive. Even when we saw some Rio matches, no match was boring at all. Something very important too is that no team can be underestimated now. We saw that with Orchid, we saw that with Loki. Everybody was hoping for a 3-0 or for a 3-2 series on Lotus versus Loki, and that did not happen. Alter was right. So that's
Come on, dude.
no, you were right. I'm giving you. Come on. But yeah, we cannot deny Erodium, no matter what, keeps being Erodium.
I think you were saying something, that teams improved, and we saw that with Loki, and I think we also saw it with Orchid. With both of those teams, we saw.
I would actually say also Fantasy Death
Yes.
improved a lot.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah, definitely.
Go ahead. I mean, if you guys want to discuss that before.
Yeah,
move to-
I would obviously Cryptic wasn't playing as good as they play against Lotus last week.
like really off.
But by
Yeah,
the way,
but-
let me stop you right here. If you're watching us right now, I would highly suggest going to Wikipedia and being there with the bracket of what's happening week by week. That way you will see what we're saying, understand what we're talking about. I'm gonna put the link on the bottom here on YouTube,
Yep.
so you can have it and open it and have it on hand, so you can see the matches and what was the final score.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So just continuing with what I was saying, like Cryptic obviously didn't play their best, but Fantasy Death improved quite a bit. I will actually make a special mention for Davinzano. I think he played really well. I think he was the MVP for his team in this week. And I'm actually excited to see if they can make playoffs over Cryptic, because right now they have the upper hand.
The thing is, we know Davi is a really good player. He has been there for a long time. I don't think I have ever heard about Leo. I don't think I've ever heard about him. To be honest.
That's Leo Savia, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. So, and Snip, we have known him for a long time, and he's a really good player too. But he's a console player, I think, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, there's a chemistry thing going on. I don't think it's a old team. I think that they're brand new. So because Snip has been playing with some other people, he is a console player, and you don't get console players playing with PC players very often. You're seeing it now more because we had the update in the game where you can just do teams party up with anyone. But before that, it was kind of a weird thing to have. So it's the same thing with them as for Orchid and for Loki. They are finding each other a little bit more. They are developing this chemistry, which is the thing we said about G Factor. We said, well, I thought before. I don't know if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I saw them they had this chemistry. They could find each other and do passing plays and have everyone in being part of the goal of the plays, and that was a good thing for them. But they don't have the mechanical skills. These guys, on the other hand, Fantasy Death, especially, they have good mechanical skills, but they didn't have that chemistry, and they are developing that chemistry as we move forward every week. That's a really good thing. We saw Renan in Loki playing way better. He was feeling himself in the team. Like right now, I'm part of this team. I don't have to be on the back, like shy away. I can be part of the action this time. So I can pass the ball and do really good passing as I was doing on week 1, but I can also score, and defend. And he was defending amazingly this time. The same thing, Orchid. They were trying to engage every single player on each play. On week 1, they did it this time. They stopped trying. They were able to do it. So that was a big takeaway for me this week. Those teams are growing a lot because they're putting the time. They know there's a big prize on their for this tournament, and they're really trying really hard to get to the top. So. That was my biggest takeaway. And I think it's gonna be something that to look forward every single week. That's the thing that keeps me, I think, the most excited, because again, we saw Erodium play really well, but I don't think anyone was expecting Orchid to do so well against them, and they actually
really sweated that match.
They had the first match. They had the first match. Orchid had the first match, which is something that we were not expecting at all.
I think it was game 3 when they scored like with 20 seconds remaining. They were up, I think, 3-2. Yeah, I think they were.
Yeah, Orchid scored with 4 seconds left, and then Matt scored with 20 left.
I think it was like 14 seconds, maybe 20 seconds left.
Yeah, it was
and it was
really
like
short time.
Takeoff, Bolt hits it towards the center, and Matt is like, "Let me do it myself. I'm gonna make a goal. I'm gonna make my team win 3-1." I don't know how he does it.
And the matches... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it just shows how much, especially Orchid, in my opinion, I think is the team that showed the most development, because I don't think it's just a mere mortal team that could make Erodium sweat the way they did. Math had insane stats, and so had the rest of the team. It was not like Orchid was just letting them roll over the field, right? It was like really hard fought until the very end. Even though it wasn't a 5-game series, it was really closely, like way more close than just 3-1 would suggest.
I'm looking at the scores right now, and the only game that went by a big margin was the second game, which Erodium won 7-2. But everything else, the first one was a 3-1. Orchid won that one. The third one was an overtime, so it was a 4-3, and then the last one was a 3-2. All games were really close. We saw a C4 that he was attacking really well and defending when he needed to.
Yeah, C4 was amazing.
C4 was great.
Noisy was there. He showed up really well on first week, on week 1, but the rest of the team wasn't keeping up with his pace, with his fast pace. And this time, they did. And Bruno was also there, to
Bruno had
did you
a
guys
goal.
watch that Musty flick Bruno did?
Yeah, oh my god.
That was amazing.
Nuts.
That was amazing.
So
That was
good.
probably the most beautiful play we saw today. Apart
I
from
mean,
the
Matt
ones.
had like
That was-
7
Apart
beautiful
from
plays.
mad ones.
Matt had like
Yeah,
7
and that
beautiful plays.
bomb by Renan into, I think it was Renan.
Oh,
who
that
did
was
it.
a great one.
Yeah, actually, we had a lot of highlight goals this week. Even though the Swiss might suggest that was like boring games, no, it definitely wasn't. Like, we're actually really good games.
Yeah, really good games.
So I think we talked about Cryptic. It was last week. It was Shoot 'em. They found an org, and they got adopted. But they are under Critic now, and we talk about them being maybe the dark horse of South America. I think we are looking now at Orchid more than that.
Oh
Orchid-
yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
Orchid can create chaos in the top 4 right now. If they have to play. They have to play against Ents and against Lotus. They already lost against Loki. They already lost against Erodium. So they still have 2 chances to make top 4. It's not like it matters that much, Because I don't think they can get top 2, and top 2 is the only like place that matters.
There's still a small chance for them to make top 2. I feel
I
like.
mean, I
It's
don't.
the dark horse, right? So who
I
knows?
mean, if they actually make it, I'm giving the regular season MVP to someone in Arcade.
Yeah.
I
If
mean,
they
fair.
make top 2, that would be insane.
Well, the thing is, you can make it top 6. You know that doesn't matter on the bracket for this league play, and then you have the final tournament. You know the final tournament to choose not to choose, but to see who's top 2 on the region. That's the one that matters. So these guys, the way they're playing is that they are improving every week. They are getting better. They're learning from the mistakes. As long as you have competitive matches with those top 4 teams, then you can steal a couple of games in that tournament and you're in. That's it. I mean, you're still a dark horse. You still, are there making trouble for the other teams, for the top 4. I make quotes on that one because they could be in the top 4 right now.
Yeah, I was saying during my cast that if Orchid keeps playing like this, we might have to extend the top 4 into a top 5
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they really played.
Yes.
They really played at that level, honestly. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see the match next week versus Fantasy. I really feel that match more than any will show just like if they can keep that level of performance and if they can actually be a contender for that top 2 spot at the very end.
Looking at next week bracket, I think that's a match to look for. That's the biggest match to
Yeah, after these results, definitely.
because the other matches, I think we are expecting them to be one-sided. Looking at the at
Other
week
than the
3.
INTZ Arcade match, I personally the one I'd be most interested in seeing is the low-key Cryptic one, just because I want to see if Cryptic can actually recover from what I feel was a very poor performance this week.
Yes.
Like it was just, especially after what they showed the previous week when they didn't have the work. Like I don't think they should have lost as handily as they did to Fantasy Death. Yes, Fantasy Death improved, but that was just not the same team we saw last week. So it's going to be a tough match for sure, but I want the series to at least be closer, so I still have hopes for them for the following weeks.
Agreed. I mean, that's a team that we know have a lot of skills, but they haven't been showing it. They have been, cold feet or something. I don't know what's going on with them. I really don't know. I wish I could talk to them. Maybe I'll do send them a message in private and see what's the response, because they have been a solid team for a long time. Well, solid players. Let's call them solid players for a very long time, and now they're not showing. They are struggling. They are doing things that they're not doing things that they should be making, the places they should be able to do, and it's just weird. It's just weird. It's like they don't find the gas pedal. It's something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree for sure. They have to show up for the next week starting. They can't falter now. Maybe it's the pressure about actually just because this is not just any league, right? This is the league right now. So maybe they just don't know how to handle the pressure as well, and that's maybe why they're faltering, especially after they lost at really close versus Lotus. Maybe they're still reeling from that loss, but yeah, it's basically now or never, or well, next week or never. Because if they don't do it next week, then yeah, I don't even know if they'll even get a top 6 spot at that point if they play the way they played versus Fantasy Death, because I think Fantasy Death is just gonna overtake them if so.
Right. It could be. I mean, the way they're playing, Fantasy Death could be the 6th spot, spot. I'm sorry, and just right now the way it looks, I mean, the way we see things, G Factor might be the the lowest seed, and Cryptic could be there. Could be the 7th. I mean, we don't know. Obviously, we don't. I mean, Orchid only has one game on their belt, but they have been playing really good, so we don't expect them to lose everything else. But those, G Factor and Cryptic, they need to find a way to win. They really do need to find a way to win. I was gonna ask you guys, how do you see the top teams right now? I mean, Ints,
That's gonna be interesting.
Erodium, they played really well, but Erodium didn't have that showing that. Well, you could see it in different ways. You could say, well, they struggle against a team they shouldn't have, or you can say they found a way to win against a team that played way better than anyone was expecting. So
I'd say the latter for that one.
Yeah.
They definitely
Yeah,
found a
for
way to
sure.
come back after facing adversity from a very on fire Orchid team who just did not look like they were going to stop after that first game. And then in came Matt.
And even
then,
the third and the
with
four
that.
matches, like literally
Yeah, those
every
were still pretty
single-
close.
Every single game started with an Orchid goal. Every
Yep.
single
Every
game.
single game, yeah, you're right.
They always got 2 goals.
So yeah, so like so even though that second game was kind of a wash for Erodium anyways, like it's not Orchid were actually playing insanely well. It's just that Erodium, there's a reason why everyone thinks they're not number one, and even though Orchid were playing insane, or Erodium was playing insane, or I don't know the word, whatever.
More insane.
Yeah, exactly.
Insaner.
Insaner.
So, what's your take now on Loki and Ints? Anything change? Anyone?
Oh man, Loki look so much more consistent and comfortable as a team, and they're going to be really dangerous going into the last few weeks of league play.
Yeah, that ends a game. Like they let a couple of goals in by G Factor when they really shouldn't. It kind of looked like they were almost like just playing with their food. And I'm sorry to say that about G Factor, but it just that actually kind of worries me in a sense, just because if they're gonna get themselves so overconfident that they're just gonna let in free goals like that, I feel if their overconfidence might just bite them in the end and against better teams if they're not careful.
Yeah.
So
To me,
We'll see.
To me, top two is still gonna be like the same top two I said at the start of the season. I think it's gonna be Rodium and Loki. Like, yeah, Loki's losing against Ents. They also lost in a tournament. What day
They
was
do
it?
have the,
Wednesday.
yes,
They
oh,
lost.
yeah.
They lost Wednesday against Ents 3-0. Like it was bad. It was bad. They lost really bad. But Loki today showed me that they can still play as the Loki I know. So I'm still giving it like my confidence, and I think
just have to
Loki's gonna
fight
make
for
RLCS.
I think-
Loki's gonna make.
I think you're wrong about it. I think you're saying that they can play as the Loki you know. I think they're playing better. They're showing that they
Yeah,
can
they're
play better.
definitely
than
Oh
that.
my god! Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So they are growing as a team. They have been finding that rhythm, and I don't think we have seen the best of them yet. Card is playing really well, and when you have a card that can trust in Tander and Renan that they're gonna be defending, this guy can do anything. He's mechanically gifted. He's going all the time. For those flip resets. He's going for those. Self-passing plays against the backboard, and he can dribble really well too. So when he knows that he can trust his teammates, he will be able to play freely, and that will improve everyone on that team. So I think Loki will play better, but I think Int is playing better too. We saw them. They had just a walk in the park today. But one player that is impressing me a lot is Matix or Matix. I don't know how you're calling him right now. But Matt is he's improving. He's playing more, solid Rocket League every single time. I think his mechanics are showing more now. So in the same thing, that was a team that maybe last week they were not looking for each other as much as they're doing now. So everyone, I don't know if it's the prize for the best playmaker, but everyone is playing with each other now. They're looking for the passes. They're finding each other, and that's one thing you didn't see maybe a month or two ago in South America as much. You saw it, but not as much. And now everyone is doing it. So I really like the way that's helping them improve as teams. So it's right there. I mean, I can't count them off right now. They look
I was
really good.
gonna say that even though I also agree that my first instinct when I came into the scene, I started like seeing the teams. My first instinct was also Loki as the second spot. The fact is that ENC has pretty much the edge over them when it comes to series wins. Right, they've already won twice now, and I mean, Loki has to be sort of careful to not get it too much in their heads as well, because maybe Loki is played insanely well versus Lotus, sure, but if they get it too much into their head that Inti is just like this wall they can surpass, like the final boss or sorts, they might just falter at the end against them, even though maybe they're the better team. So yeah, I still think the edge overall might go to Aints just because of that mental factor, but we'll see how Loki can like adjust to that when they actually play again, which in theory is going to be on the playoffs.
The thing is, they play on the first week. Now we have
Yeah,
5 weeks in total, and then we have the final tournament. So these guys, the way they're playing, that they're gonna change, they're gonna grow, and
that's the hope.
it's so interesting. It's so interesting. And then it's a final tournament. That's it. That's one day where one team could be playing not so good, and the other one plays like Orchid today, where they were doing everything right.
That's going to be a nail
So
biter.
it's gonna be so much fun. So I think we all agreed that the games that we're looking forward next week is Aints against Orchid and Loki
Yes.
against Cryptic. Those are the first two matches on the schedule for next week. So you guys, be looking out for the streams. We have streams in Spanish, English, and Portuguese. You can find all three on the description. I'm gonna put them also over there. And it's gonna be, it's gonna be a great way to start the stream with those two matches. It's gonna be insane. So I don't know anything else anyone wants to add. I think we have covered most of what happened this week. I still want to add. I feel not so good about Lotus. I want to see how they
They need to bounce back.
they need to
Yeah,
bounce.
they definitely need to bounce back.
Yeah, that was that. We actually didn't talk that much about that game. Was like I feel for him, and I kind of hate just calling out one member, but Hammer Camper. He needs to be the man to like just forget about this week and play as well as I've seen him play before. If he does that, then sure, good. Then they can actually bounce back. But if they get this loss way too much, which I kind of feel was their fault in the very end, as well as Loki might have played. If they get that too much in their heads, then they might actually be in trouble for the rest of the season. So we'll see next week.
Yeah, that first game actually shouldn't have gone to overtime. Like, Harry Kemper had the goal, and I think he thought Renan had the save, so he tried to fake.
From my point of view, the way it seemed, it was like that Evercamper wanted to give the goal credit to his teammate. I forgot who it was. And he just backflipped, and unfortunately, it gave enough time for Nana to make the save.
Yeah, like I think Renan, or maybe
I need to
maybe
see.
it was that.
I need to see the replay to be
Yeah,
sure.
maybe it was that. Maybe Harry Kemper thought Renan had the save, so he tried to fake it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
That was kind of weird, but
Okay.
that was Lotus win. That was definitely a Lotus win. And the series might have been like really different from then on. So it's hard. It's hard seeing such a story team. We could say such a story team in the region falter this hard, but it's not over. It's not over.
No, it's not over. Okay, guys, I think we covered a little bit. So we're gonna stay tuned. We I think in the next few weeks we're gonna have more data, and we could be, maybe teasing a little bit of what would happen if one of these teams, really go into RLCS. Well, they will go to RLCS. What we're gonna expect from them. So that will be interesting. But for now, I just want to thank all these guys for taking their time. I know that they're tired and they got other things to do, but we really want you, the people watching this, to understand a little bit more about South American Rocket League, and be in the lookout, watch the games and see what you think. I think right now that we're setting up the streams, you can see NA, you can see EU, and still, watch South American Rocket League afterwards and make your own opinions, make your mind, and say, hey, you guys are crazy. South America is gonna get blown, or you can say, they're gonna do good. They're gonna do good.
They're gonna win it all.
Yeah, you can say that. I'm saying that, so whatever. So.
Yeah, they're not winning at all.
But that's it. That's it for today. I thank you, everyone. So have a good day. Take care, and see you next week with more Grand Series here in Rocket Street Live in Rocket League Central and Rocket Street BR. See you guys. Have a good night or good day, whatever it is. Bye.